Revenge films.
My name is Nellie, and I started working for this company a few years, right after graduating college. I was a member of their reading club at school, and after graduating, I started going out with one of the club members, whose name was Hank. Back then, during our school days, we only ever talked once in a blue moon considering we're in completely different facilities. And it was rare we'd join club activities at the same time. So how did two people who hardly ever talked to each other end up dating? Well, it's a small world after all. Pretty much sums it up. We bumped into each other at a local bar a few years after we graduated. The kind of person who doesn't mind company in the slightest, but who also appreciates her time alone, and going places I'm interested in has always been a passion of mine. After a long week of hard work, my favorite thing to do first thing Friday evening, to head over to some bar in the city alone and drink to my heart's content. One evening, I was reading a book I was hooked on, sipping cocktails, and someone peered into my eyes from beyond the pages. It took me a second before I recognized him. Oh, it was Hank.
Is that you, Nellie?
Hank, oh my gosh, it's been a while. How have you been?
What are the odds? Don't answer that. The math will give you a headache for the rest of your life. You alone?
I am, yeah. How about you?
Same. Alone.
It's so strange how two people who hardly knew each other back then in the olden days can find so much to talk about. The irony is that usually the topic of conversation is literally about the old days. The two of us was nice in itself, but the master of the bar joined in and things got pretty fun before long.
By the way, do you have a job right now, Nellie?
My job's kind of hard to explain.
You leave that to me, lass. Hank, my boy, this fine young lady works for a large conglomerate, and she's apparently the young hope of the enterprise. A couple of editors from that company frequent this establishment here, and when I asked about you, I'm nosy, sue me, they all made very positive remarks. You're going places, lass. Mark my words.
Oh, master, please. It's not like that at all.
Oh, you're working for a large conglomerate? That's amazing, Nellie.
I'm telling you, it's not like that. Not by a long shot. That ignited something nice between us, and before I knew it, one date had turned into another, and everything snowballed as well from then on. Before long, he confessed his feelings to me and asked if he would be my boyfriend. I said yes. To be honest with you, and if I find out you've laughed to someone about what I'm telling you about, I'm going to wring your neck like a chicken. But although we hardly ever talked, he was exactly my type of guy. Calm, composed, maybe a bit of a whiz in some kind of hobby. The fact that he confessed to me and that I became his girlfriend made me very happy. And like anyone, I pray that these happy days would last forever. 2 months after we became a couple, Hank proposed to me. Everyone around me told me it was a bit too much too soon, but the joy was too much to handle, and it switched off all forms of rational thought. I accepted his proposal immediately. Soon thereafter, talk of a wedding and a honeymoon became very enthusiastic, and our parents got along pretty well, too. Everything seemed too perfect, and during that time, I was never happier in my life. And I was sure my life with Hank would transcend space and time, immemorial. But unfortunately, the day everything changed came as abruptly as how our relationship started.
Hang on, you dropped something.
I did? Oh, thanks.
A card. What's this? It says the name of a small company here at the bottom. I thought you worked for a large conglomerate.
It's my official card calling, dear. Can't you tell?
I think you misheard me, honey. Didn't the master of that bar say you were working for a prestigious enterprise? And a lot of senior officers held you in high regard?
Nope. I'm working for a small company, the name of which was what you see at the bottom of the card.
You can't be serious. A small, unimportant company? We're breaking up right now.
Wait, what? Why?
Not like I have anything to gain by being with someone like you, now do I? Don't contact me ever again. See ya.
And that's how Hank broke my heart so suddenly and so brutally. As you would expect. Because my joy for being able to go out with him in the first place had been overwhelming, the shock of him dumping me hit me like a monster truck traveling at the speed of sound. Needless to say, I got so depressed, some terrifying thoughts started popping up in my head, and focusing on work became extremely difficult in my life. Such was my life, a shattered mess. But one who became my safety net is my closest friend, India. She and I have been chosen friends since college, and she knew more than anyone else how interested I was in Hank. And that's why she knew more than anyone else that I needed support during this vulnerable time. And boy, oh boy, did she do a fantastic job. Thanks to her, as well as my other friends and my parents, and my work that kept me distracted, I was finally able to let go of my lingering feelings for Hank, and my energy as well as my former self slowly but surely returned. But then, right when I'd begun to forget what Hank even looked like, something totally unexpected would arrive at my doorstep. The day was the day after India had stayed overnight at my place, and as always, I went to the mailbox to get the mail right after I got up. There was an invitation to a wedding, and the sender was none other than Hank himself. What the heck?
What's the matter, hon? Oh, a wedding invitation. How splendid. Who's it from?
It's from Hank.
No frickin' way!
India became furious when she found out I wasn't lying. This prick dumped me for the most selfish reasons known to man. And not even a year after breaking my heart, he had the audacity to invite me to his marrying another poor girl. I mean, how much of a cruel slimebag could this guy be? I frankly agreed on her completely. What he did was terrible and should never be forgiven. But the shock didn't stop there, because everything, even more surprisingly, fell upon us soon afterwards. Our text messages was completely severed after he blocked me on all platforms, and I never expected to hear from him again, only to discover a message from him in my inbox soon after receiving the invitation. The message consisted of one normal thing and something else that made me want to snap my phone in half. The former was basically a notice saying that I should have received an invitation to his wedding by now. And the latter, get this, was a request. More specifically, I'd appreciate if you gave us a rather large present at the commemorative of this momentous occasion. In other words, he wanted me to give him a lot of money as my congratulations. That's when India proposed an idea.
Hey, do you mind if you bring me along to the wedding?
Huh? But I'm not going to the wedding.
I have an idea, and if it works, it'll get that frickin' Gilgalo running and screaming for his dignity back. Come on, it'll be worth it. Trust me. Let's go to the wedding, hun.
I mean, if you're tagging along, I suppose I could go. I decided to let India do what she wanted me to do. And the first thing was to ask Hank to send an invitation to her. Him being after loads and loads of money and nothing else, he accepted right then and there, and immediately sent India an invitation as well. And the big day finally arrived. India's instructions were, rent a beautiful, stylish dress, and get my hair done at a beauty salon. I obeyed, and if I may so myself, I looked absolutely gorgeous. We then headed for the wedding chapel. Inside was quite an unexpected large crowd, and from what the building and the setup and the decorations looked like, I could only imagine how much money was spent on this stupid ceremony. It didn't take very long for me to find out that the bride was the daughter of the president of a large conglomerate, and that she herself was working in her father's company. In other words, she was the rightful heir to become president of this company, which pretty much managed all of the country's important on wristwatches and pocket watches. Hey, don't you think it's kind of wrong for me? I'm just an ordinary office woman. All these people look richer than Bruce Wayne.
Oh, nonsense, hun. You're actually making so much more than all these people combined, after all.
That's besides the point.
Oh, look, the wedding's about to start.
The wedding really had begun, because right at that moment, the bride and groom entered the room. It had been so long since I last saw Hank, and perhaps my feelings for him were now colder than the winter's day on Pluto. He somehow looked extremely hideous in my eyes. As the bride and groom started greeting everyone and thanking them for coming to the wedding, India started to become agitated. Making no mistake, this kind of aggravated was one of a sinister intent, because the smile she had on her face was fraught with malice. And right as the newlyweds made it for a table, she started talking loudly.
That Hank was so stupid, though, for real. He didn't even know your estate was in billions. He literally dumped you, a sweet, beautiful gold mine of a girl, for someone who's completely... sells things you could wear on your wrist. For real, shame on him.
No, India, what are you... When she finished shouting this load of nonsense, all of Hank's friends swarmed around me like worker bees around their queen and started bombarding me with questions. And on top of that, Hank himself left his new wife right where she stood and literally sprinted to where I sat.
Wait, what do you mean, estate in the billions? I thought you worked as an ordinary officewoman for a small company.
What are you talking about? Oh, you mean her usual job? Yeah, she still works there. But she's actually received a prestigious award for this novel of hers, and a few thousand copies had been sold within the first couple weeks after getting published. Since then, The sales are just amazing, and the money's been rolling in for the past year now. Her story's getting adapted into a movie soon. Actually, and all royalties on production and goods are also rolling in. You didn't know about that?
Nellie, is this true?
It is.
So what he meant when the master said editors instead of just senior officers, why the hell didn't you tell me beforehand? Wait here a minute.
As she said so, he sprinted back to his new wife, yanking the ring off her finger, the very same ring they'd exchanged in front of everyone, and sprinted back to my table. And lo and behold, he gave the same ring to me. The entire room filled with a silence so excruciating I could hear my own blood through my veins. Time seemed to have stopped completely. No one was moving a muscle. But then the bride, as pale as a phantom, opened her mouth and croaked.
What's going on here?
What's going on here is that I've changed my mind. I want to marry Nellie here, and I'm going to make it so that my marriage to you never happened.
Huh?
You can't be serious, my boy. Of course I am, sir. So my daughter is nothing but a wallet to you now, is she? You never loved her, and you never intended to make her happy. I'll make you rue the day you were born, lad, and I'm gonna start by making you pay for this whole wedding. By all means, sir, by all means, with Nellie, whose estate seems to be far larger than your own. Such a measly price shouldn't be too much of a problem.
The bride's parents got so angry, I was scared that there was going to be bloodshed. The bride eventually started to cry. I wanted to hug her so badly because I knew what kind of pain she was going through. That's when I decided to speak. Excuse me.
What is it?
I'm not marrying this creep. I have another boyfriend right now, for starters.
But that's impossible. You were completely in love with me, and then I left you. I heard tell you were having so much trouble getting over the breakup. How could you just have recovered so quickly? And how could you get yourself another stupid prick?
One thing led to another with my publisher, you see. And I got infatuated with the editor who was helping me out with the makings of these perfect novels. He seemed to be interested in me too, because he confessed his feelings to me before long.
I'm never gonna forgive you.
The freak? And since when are you in the position of saying that stupid bullshit? A guy like you, a damn gold digger, deserves the worst punishment imaginable. And personally, my feelings for you have become nothing but anger, resentment, and passionate hatred. Make no mistake, and don't try to convince me otherwise when I say this. I would rather slice off my own arms and legs and bleed an agonizing death than marrying the likes of you. Perhaps he never expected a refusal because Hank just stood motionless, with his mouth open in shock, like a cuttlefish. I was certain the fly was buzzing around the room, eventually finding itself inside that mouth of his. The bride marched up to him and let loose a slap on his face that resonated in the room. She then grabbed his shoulders and started shaking him violently.
So all that talk about you promising to make me happy was all a lie!
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Forget everything I just said. I want to marry you now.
Oh, okay. Then give me back my ring, and let's go to that hotel room so you can take a nap, where I can freaking kill you in your sleep! Here are you, my damn ass! There's no way you can convince me to marry you again, Mr. Hank Ologing! You're out of your brainless mind!
Prepare yourself, laddie, because there'll be some demand in your mailbox in the next few days. And boy, oh boy, are they gonna pack a doozy. But what I said earlier was just a harmless prank, sir. A joke. It was a part of a wedding ceremony to provide some entertainment. I must say, Miss India did a hell of a job with the acting. It's amazing how you still believe we're going to fall for these idiotic lies. I've had enough. Come on, my dears. We're heading home. Thank you for coming, everyone, and I believe this wedding is officially a disaster. And I suggest you get back home before things get even worse, if that's even humanly possible.
Don't you ever show yourself in front of me again! You'll be sorry if you do!
Now hold on a minute. I'm begging you, please, spare me the demands for compensation, sir.
I think it's high time we went home too, Nellie, hon. Shall we?
Of course. Thereafter, Hank was left with no choice but to give everyone their wedding gifts back, and the entire wedding cost was arranged to be paid by him. There was apparently a plan that after Hank married his bride, whose name was Deirdre, by the way, he would go work for his father-in-law's company himself. After the wedding drew close, Hank quit his old job to start preparing for his new one. But because the wedding became very definition of catastrophic, he found himself jobless and penniless in order to pay off the wedding costs and the compensation to Deirdre and her family, the damages he caused them, he got himself into a huge amount of debt. As for me, I recently started living with my boyfriend Tyler, and my life with him was nowadays amazing. I hope this was a valuable lesson for Hank and for you too. Don't ever pretend to love someone because of their financial assets. Love them for who they are as a person and make efforts to make them happy. Thanks for listening and have a nice rest of your day or night.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.